Donald Trump is having a pretty bad go of it lately, not just because the markets are tanking and his approval rating is following suit with historic crashes, but it's because his favorite media outlet cannot defend the indefensible all the time. And sometimes they're just blatantly turning on him. And we saw that recently in an interview in which Donald Trump was absolutely ripped apart by a Fox host for the stunt that he put on with Elon Musk as it relates to the tariffs that are going to crush the U.S. auto industry. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into that MAGA host calling out Donald Trump, I want to start with a MAGA host, not a MAGA host, I'm sorry, but a Fox host we actually like, someone who is not MAGA. That's Jessica Tarlov right here.
So if Trump was thinking about the future, the beautiful future of the country, then he would be looking at that spending bill that Mike Johnson put forward, which is going to add, what, $7 trillion to the deficit. And he'd be saying, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe my friends don't need a tax cut. Maybe this should be more evenly distributed. Maybe we should help out the little guy and give them a tax cut instead of the people who paid to get me in there. And you say, he's doing Elon Musk a solid. Elon Musk spent $290 million to get him elected. He owes Elon Musk that car commercial, which maybe it's an ethics violation. Even the strongest allies of the president don't like these tariffs. They might think it's possible to use them at smaller levels, 5%, 10%, but the tariff whiplash is destroying us. You look at the market tanking, and I thought Peter Doocy had a great point earlier on today, our very own Peter Doocy, where he said, they want federal workers to take the buyout. They want them to retire, but they're sinking their retirement accounts. And Caroline Leavitt is standing up there at the podium, and she's just, either she doesn't know how a tariff works or she's lying to the people. She said tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries and a tax cut for the American people. And then a reporter, I think from the AP, so they got back in the room, said, have you ever paid a tariff? I have. They don't get charged on foreign countries. And then she went Trumpian. She goes, I think it's insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge on economics. I'll test your knowledge on economics, Jesse. Go. Are tariffs a tax on the American consumer?
If you have a tariff on a product, Jessica,
don't do
what that does is it makes American workers richer. Because then you buy American and you bring American plants back to this country.
Listen,
that's the point. And every president has done it. And it's usually resulted in bringing jobs back.
Did you know that Richard Nixon of an American presidency for the market since 2000?
I think it's kind of funny or maybe disheartening, or I don't even know what the emotion is, that Jessica Tarlov brought up that it was clearly an ethics violation for Donald Trump to be doing a car commercial for his buddy and biggest owner in the history of American politics and Elon Musk on the White House lawn. But that wasn't even a consideration. Like, we didn't even think about, like, we have to hold this guy accountable for this clear ethics violation, this clear violation of the Hatch Act. We've moved so far past that. But it also is just like the idiocracy and how out of touch Donald Trump continues to become, that while Americans are struggling because of his tariffs, he decided the answer to that, to his messaging war, is to write a check to the richest guy in the history of the world at the White House. Talk about the elitism MAGA claims to hate, but actually embraces all the time. And it's the reason that even Fox is calling this out. And we saw an interview with a Fox host and Republican Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio, when she just blatantly asked him, like, what is this? This is embarrassing. And he obviously did not have a great reaction.
And finally, speaking of Tesla, the president bought one this week in an attempt to boost its stock after it plunged about 38% amid Musk's Doge cuts. Here's what he said. Listen to this. There was basically a display at the White House there. He surveyed some cars. It was happening as, Americans' 401k accounts were facing some struggles because of this tariff war happening right now. Was that an appropriate thing for the president to do there? Was it sensitive to the moment that we're in, buying a car, using the White House as a backdrop for that?
Well, first of all, he's promoting American-made products. I applaud him for doing that. He's not the first president to do that. Most presidents have done something like it in the past. Joe Biden did it in his term and excluded Tesla. I think at the end of the day, you have Democrats now being anti-EV. So maybe we get some balance now because they were only EV. Look, the reality is this. President Trump is a president that's going to reindustrialize this country, bring back our might of the Midwest, and that's why he's so popular in states like mine.
So really surprising to see a Fox host check a MAGA senator on the horrible agenda that Donald Trump is putting forward, and just how stupid he looks, like hawking cars for Elon Musk on the White House lawn. But this is the point that we've gotten to. When the markets continue to crash, Fox is feeling the pressure from their audience. Peter Doocy said it. These are people who expected an explosion in the market and the economy to soar, and now they're feeling betrayed. Donald Trump's approval rating on the economy, the one thing throughout his entire presidency and campaign he could always bank on for some reason being positive, has now dropped below 50%, and it's only getting worse and worse. And so we see Donald Trump trying to turn to the issue he loves most in immigration, of course, fear-mongering about it and breaking the law. And we saw that last night, and I talked about this one meltdown on Fox, but there were plenty from Donald Trump's advisors, Stephen Miller and Alina Abba, that came out of Donald Trump being called out for breaking the law. And I want to take a look at those. But first, I want to hear from the lawyer who caused that meltdown, and Andrew Weissman.
Here's the question for you, Andrew. At what point does the Trump administration, in your view, and are we already on this slippery slope, begin to ignore the rulings of judges in these matters that his White House is deeming that he has superiority by virtue of being the chief executive of the country?
Well, there's very disturbing reporting in the New York Times just this morning suggesting, not concluding, but suggesting that that may in fact have happened. And that Judge Boasberg, the trial court judge who issued this temporary restraining order and said, you can't remove people. And he also said, to the extent that their planes in the air, they need to come back. You cannot remove people because I'm finding that this is improper. It's unclear at this point whether, in fact, that order was complied with. The doomsday scenario for this country is the idea that you would just ignore a court order. At that point, there is no rule of law in this country. Yeah. You're a law of the jungle. So that's a thing to keep an eye on as to whether that, in fact, happened here.
It is clear that Donald Trump is violating the law. It is clear that Donald Trump is doing so on this issue because he thinks people will side with him if he can message it as Democrats trying to protect criminals and terrorists, which is just a lie. It's Democrats trying to protect lawful residents of the United States who are without due process and unjustly being shipped to countries they've never been, where they speak languages they don't know, just because they were racially profiled by these MAGA cops. It is a scary thing. But what is even scarier is how hard MAGA is going defending them. Listen to Stephen Miller right here.
But let me play this first from somebody who I know is not a favorite of President Trump. This is Andrew Weissman, who's a former top Mueller prosecutor. Of course, it's not a huge surprise that he didn't like this operation. He doesn't think it's legal under the act that you just mentioned, Stephen. Watch.
We're not at war with Venezuela. We're not at war with the gang that is the subject of the executive order. There is no invasion that is going on. And you also have to show that the people you're removing are actually part of that gang, even if there were an invasion or a war. And this statute may, in fact, be very unconstitutional.
So the judge has to be convinced that these individuals aren't really, I mean, it's a huge group and, you know, nobody's going to miss any of these people, but they're quantifiable. So can you prove that these individuals were linked with Tren de Aragua and that Tren de Aragua is part of a Maduro operation, Stephen?
So first of all, Andrew Weissman is an absolute moron. He is a moron, and he is a fool, and he's a degenerate. Andrew Weissman has devoted his career to putting innocent Americans in jail, taking away their civil liberties. He was involved in the Mueller coup against a democratically elected President Donald J. Trump. Weissman should never be on TV anywhere. He should hang his head in eternal shame.
Yeah, you can really tell that Andrew Weissman struck a nerve there, considering the meltdown that we saw from Stephen Miller. But it wasn't just him. Alina Abba, the worst lawyer in America, clearly, I don't know how this person hasn't been disbarred yet, also stood up and stepped up, I guess, to try to defend Donald Trump. And she did so in two clips that I think really show an important messaging failure of the administration. And I want to take a look at them right here.
So as I said again, Caroline spoke to this. I'm going to refer to her and defer to her. And also, I think that given that there's a hearing in just a couple hours, I'm going to let the lawyers speak to that on the record and answer all the judges' questions, which we always do. We cooperate, and we tend to be in court a lot. It's what they like to do. These rogue judges have to stop. This is an executive decision, and we are trying to make America safe again. We are doing a great job of it, and this is a big part of it. These people are not, they're not well liked in this country. They are not welcome. They have hurt so many people. I've been focused on human trafficking, human extortion, and the things that I have seen are so disturbing, I cannot even tell you. And when you learn about what happens to these individuals, some of them that come in that they don't even know they're getting trafficked. They come in and they go into states and then they think they're getting taken care of by some friend and are extorted sexually, labor, the list goes on and on. It's disgusting. It has to stop, and we have to make America safe again. Yeah.
So did President Trump and his administration act within the confines of the law with these deportations?
Absolutely. Under Article 2, the president is allowed to do this. Number one. Number two, let's not forget that the people that were on this, and I saw the clip earlier in your show with The View, again, hitting with the absolute garbage that they give their viewers, saying that, you know, they are going to come after you, they're illegals, and they just swipe clean people and take them on a plane. No, these are gang members. These are members that President Trump has delegated and said are terrorist organizations. Tren d'Aragua is a terrible organization that has taunted and hit many Americans. Look at the Kaylin Riley. Look at what they're doing, Laken Riley. It's
so obviously in that first clip, Alina Abba is trying to push the message that the Trump administration really wants to hammer home, which is activist judges in cities you don't even know about. They're trying to hold the power of the presidency, while not acknowledging that there are three branches of government and we have checks and balances. That is the American system of government, even though dictator Donald Trump doesn't like it. But they're trying to say that because they think that they can win on this issue of immigration. It is unfortunately one that Donald Trump still has a positive approval rating on. And if they think that they can win this battle with the courts, then why not just go forward and disregard all court orders? Donald Trump can completely consolidate power. That is their aim here. But of course, I wanted to take a look at that second clip as well, where it shows Donald Trump does not care about this issue. They always talk about Laken Riley, but Alina Abba can't even remember her name. These people are political props. It's just like the young kid who had brain cancer, who Donald Trump brought to the State of the Union, although he had voted against and is supporting the removal of funding for pediatric cancer research. These people are political props that Donald Trump is clearly using to consolidate power in the executive branch, in the Oval Office for him and Elon Musk. It is nothing more than that, and we cannot be afraid to call it out. It's what we're going to do on this show every single day, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, you can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.